Howdy, seventh graders. Welcome back. Hope you're enjoying your day so far. Today we're going to be talking about the Middle Colonies. The Middle Colonies, of which there are four. We looked first at the New England colonies, of which there were four New England colonies, four original New England colonies. We're going to look at the next group of colonies, the Middle Colonies, four there. And then in a future lesson, we'll look at the five Southern colonies. So we're breaking the colonies up into three groups: the New England colonies, the Middle Colonies, and the Southern colonies. We're going to look at 4.2 today, the Middle Colonies, and we're going to start off with our vocab terms on the Middle Colonies. There are five on the worksheet here and five included in this screencast. Those five terms also appear on your Quizlet decks, and I typically will post your Quizlet decks in addition to being on the Quizlet site. They are also on your Google Classroom feed as well. Let's take a look at the five vocab terms in this section, the Middle Colonies. One, patroon, the owner of a large estate granted by the Dutch government. A patroon is an owner of a large estate granted by the Dutch government, and patroons owned land up and down the Hudson River here in New York. We'll talk about that more in class. Proprietary colony is the next term. Proprietary colony, land placed by the king into the hands of a person or group of people for personal use or to rent to others. So this is basically a plot of land that the king would have granted to a friend or a family member or a group of people, and he allowed the king allowed those people to pretty much use that land however they wanted to. A proprietary colony. A royal colony is a colony under control of the English crown, a colony under control of the king. Quakers, capital Q. Quakers were a group of Protestant reformers who believed that all people were equal in the eyes of God. The Quakers were a group of Protestant reformers who were especially important for their time because they were a group of people that believed in the equality of all people, including their treatment of African Americans, women, and Native Americans. They were a very, very religious group from Pennsylvania who believed in the equality of all people in the eyes of God. And lastly, we've got cash crop, a crop that is sold for money at a marketplace. Crop that is sold for money at market. Cash crop. Continuing on, we're looking at New Netherland. Again, we're talking about the Middle Colonies here. New Netherland was a Dutch colony in which land was held by landowners known as patroons. Its main city, New Amsterdam, attracted a wide variety of settlers from all over Europe. Okay, New Amsterdam, incidentally, today is known as New York City, which is one of the largest cities in the world. It is in our great state of New York. It was originally a Dutch city known as New Amsterdam. And New Amsterdam attracted a wide variety of settlers from all over Europe. Over time, the Dutch owners and leaders became unpopular with these settlers. And in 1664, English forces took over New Netherland. The land was given to the king's brother, the Duke of York. And afterward, the colony and its main city became known as New York. The colony, however, proved too large to govern easily, so the king established New Jersey, first as a proprietary colony and later as a royal colony. So New York was originally, New Netherland would eventually become New York, and then New York would break off eventually into two colonies, New York and New Jersey, one as a proprietary colony and later as a royal colony. Continuing on, William Penn founded the colony of Pennsylvania as a holy experiment. He was a Quaker who believed that all people were equal in the sight of God. Penn wanted his colony to be a model of religious freedom, peace, and Christian living. And Protestants from Germany seeking religious freedom became known as the Pennsylvania Dutch. The soil in the Middle Colonies was fertile. Fertile soil is soil that really supports the growth of crops. So the soil in the Middle Colonies was very fertile. Farmers in these colonies were able to grow cash crops, and the middle colonies exported so much grain that they became known as the breadbasket colonies. They exported so many grain products, they became known as the breadbasket colonies. The economy of the middle colonies also included small manufacturing and the raising of livestock. And we'll talk in a moment about the chart below, but today, uh, in the United States, the middle states, okay, the middle states, which in those days were the middle colonies, the middle states today are really considered New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey, okay? And let's take a moment to take a look at the chart down below. I'll have to move my picture here. I'll pause the video and I'll move my picture. There we go, that's much better. The economy of the middle colonies is our chart title in this particular lesson. And it's talking about what type of activities, what type of business activities did the middle colonies engage in. And number one on the left, you got farming. They raised cash crops such as wheat, barley, and rye, sold grain to other colonies. And again, in New York, in our neck of the woods, we were a middle colony and we are a middle state today. A lot of these same activities are very, very common in upstate New York. Also, there was the raising of livestock, raised cattle and pigs, sold beef, pork, and butter to other colonies and overseas. One thing you might want to ask Mrs. Brownell when you have an opportunity to see her in class or in a Google Meet, ask Mrs. Brownell how she continues the tradition of raising livestock in New York, which is now, again, a middle state, not a middle colony anymore, but a middle state. Mrs. Brownell sells beef and raises beef on a part of her land here locally. Also, and a part of the economy in the middle colonies was manufacturing. And as you can see from the chart, such goods were made, such as glass, clocks, and guns. And also iron was produced to make parts for tools and other goods. So this chart, titled The Economy of the Middle Colonies, tells us a little bit about how people provided for their families, what type of work people did in the various middle colonies during this colonial period. Let's take a look at the questions underneath the reading and the chart. Answer the following questions on a separate sheet of paper. Actually, we will talk about this in class today. Question one, and again, we're going to refer to the reading to find our answer on this. What goals did William Penn have for his colony? What goals did William Penn have for his colony? I will pause there and give you guys an opportunity to consider your response to that. Again, you're going to be reading or checking the reading to determine the answer to question number one. Question number two, again, applies to the chart. And question number two asks specifically, describe the role farming played in the economy of the middle colonies. And in formulating your answer, you're going to refer directly to the chart. Describe the role farming played in the economy of the middle colonies. What type of farming activities were people involved in the middle colonies? Use the chart to answer question two. And in our next mini lecture, we will look at the third group of colonies, the southern colonies, of which there are 5, bringing a grand total to the number of colonies that we will be discussing, 13. 4 northern colonies, New England colonies, 4 middle colonies, what we've just talked about, and the 5 southern colonies, which will total 13 colonies. And that will be our next SMART lecture.